Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. Well, it's been a little over a week since the Burning Crusade Classic has launched, and I wanted to come back and do some first impressions on how the launch has gone, how the content's been, and just generally what I think about the expansion so far. Because as you can probably tell from the way I'm looking here, I've played, a fair bit I guess at this point in time. And one of the first things that comes to mind is Burning Crusade compared to Classic wasn't nearly in the same level of hype for me. The reason for that, I think, is because in Classic, everybody was getting reset to level 1. We were going to be going in with empty auction houses. We're going to be refamiliarizing ourselves with weapon skills, going to your trainer to learn your new abilities, all the different stats we had back then. Burning Crusade is really evolving and building on what we already have learned from Classic. But I would say if you put this opening week of BC compared to Classic, it's been a lot more enjoyable for me personally. I think that boils down to in BC, there's just a lot of stuff to do when you first hit level cap, and indeed up to that journey to level cap. But before we talk about that, we need to address the launch of BC because it was frankly really good. Now, I'm aware there were some realms on North America West, I believe, which ended up getting hit by a DDoS, which there's only so much you can do about because some small people have to stick it to those streamers or something, I guess. But overall, for the majority of servers, it seemed like a pretty seamless launch. Blizzard said at BlizzCon that layering was going to be a lot better these days, and layering was a lot better these days. It just worked perfectly. In fact, from a layman looking into how the system works, it seems to be as though how sharding is on retail, but the big difference between the two is you have to choose manually when you change layer. The game doesn't do it for you. Also, it seems to support more than about 24 people on the same layer, which is very nice for getting some kind of scale of open world players. For me, the launch was so seamless, it was as if we were experiencing a retail expansion. And this was with a world where we have to get literally the entire player base through one portal at the start of it. So I think Blizzard did a really good job in rolling it out very well. The layering system appears to be dynamically growing as more and more layers are needed and more players log in, sort of similar to what sharding does again. For example, on Pyrewood Village on launch day, about an hour before launch, we were around 5 layers or so. And then right beforehand, we were up to 12, and that's come right back down again as the player base has spread back out again. And moving through the portal and getting into the content, I did opt into dungeon farming the whole way, though I heard the open world questing actually wasn't too bad. One of the main reasons I did opt for the dungeon farm when I'm somebody who typically likes their open world stuff and their questing is just because I thought it would be totally unplayable, which there was a lot of competition in the open world, but if you grouped up with people, you could probably get it done fairly easily. All the same, the dungeon grinding was, I'm glad it's done now, but it was kind of fun at the time, at least when you're doing it. This is what my dungeons look like over the past week. I'm not sure if this is a flex or anything or something that I probably shouldn't have shown, but yeah, we did quite a lot of different dungeons. I'm sure if you watched any stream on the opening week, you saw yourselves a lot of slave pens and a lot of Sethic halls. And on other characters, I plan to do the standard questing route and just get to experience how they all go again. And whilst compared to many players, I've managed to get a lot done in the first space of a week, there were those who not only reached level 70 on the first day, but also went on to clear the entirety of tier 4. Yep, within the space of 24 hours, Karazhan was down, Magtheridon's lair was down, and Gruul's lair was down by the guild progress. And honestly, on one hand, I'm not really surprised that players were able to get this done. On the other hand, I kind of am at the same time. It's hard to really put in words. Keep in mind that we did go in with pre-nerf tier 4 as well, and something that was sold at BlizzCon was Blizzard were going to try and recreate the pre-nerf raids as much as they could, with maybe some alterations to make certain encounters less annoying. All the same, our tier 3 gear has allowed us to really power through these opening encounters. And if you're looking to Burning Crusade raiding compared to Classic and thinking, finally we can start to get some challenges here, honestly, having one raid difficulty does not go well with actually having a challenge. In fact, I was kind of glad when they separated things out in Wrath of the Lich King. Up to and including Sunwell, I don't think anything is going to be overly difficult. I think it'll be similar to Naxxramas if you did those in early weeks, where the encounters aren't necessarily easy. You just have to pay attention and do the mechanics properly, not mess about too much, and they should go down. I genuinely don't think we're going to have encounters that will be hard until Wrath of the Lich King, when we have the likes of Obsidian, Sanctum 3 Drakes, or the Ulduar hard mode, so you might have quite a bit longer to wait for that. Not to say every single encounter was a pushover in the first week. I have also completed all of tier 4 now. Some encounters were a bit more challenging, the likes of Neverspite, Nightbane, and especially Magtheridon if he decides to do a back-to-back blast wave, which we also experienced but managed to get the kill nevertheless, which was very nice to have seen. Apparently this is a bug as well, so you have to watch out for that one and have another rotation ready. But I'd say it's a decent opening tier to get yourself familiarized with Burning Crusade raiding. Also, there are heroic dungeons, and you'll find that heroic dungeon mobs actually seem to hit harder than a lot of raid bosses do. They will really take you by surprise with the amount of damage that will be going out on your tank. And for many heroic dungeons, you really do need to CC things early on, even if you're coming in with Naxxramas gear. Unless you just have a Frost Mage and there are a bunch of melee mobs and you can just spam Improved Blizzard. Pretty much every heroic dungeon I've done, the real boss is the trash and the amount of some of the big pulls you have to do, whilst the bosses tend to be pretty straightforwards by and large. And 1 week in, I've still got so much stuff I need to do on my main character, mainly getting those Spell Strike pieces made because they're going to be relevant for a very, very long time. I've heard Burning Crusade being called a super raid loggy expansion, which I could see how that could happen once you've managed to get everything ticked off on your main, but I see a lot of reasons to play alts which make it much more compelling whenever it was compared to Classic. I like how in Burning Crusade there's a lot of interdependence with players. There is an absolutely enormous amount of group-wide content at the end of questing zones. There's a lot of quests that want you to go into dungeons. There's attunements, which are pretty much all group content as well by the end of them. There's a lot of really high-quality gear made through professions. And I personally find alts a lot more enticing to play because there is just so much more good gear. I really like that Blizzard recognized every single class and specialization as for each of the options that they have. Not, hey, if you play this class, well, you're a healer, here's your healing gear, go and heal, and that will keep you happy. Instead, now there's a whole breadth of gear to suit every single spec, and I really like that, and it makes me want to play different classes a lot more than I did in Classic. Granted, there are a lot of items which Abyss amongst a lot of different classes, but at least you have more choices these days. So those are the first impressions really. I've been really impressed by how Burning Crusade has gone so far. I did play back in the day as well. I used to play a Shadow Priest back then, but I was very casual. The extent of my raiding content was a bit of Karazhan pucking, and for the most time I just spent it in Battlegrounds overall. So to have really gotten stuck into the endgame content at an early phase like this has been really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to seeing how other bits will go. The one thing I'd like to mention is I hope Blizzard don't rush things. There are people like myself and a lot of other people who have absolutely zoomed towards the endgame and are just consuming the content at an absolutely insane rate. This isn't some kind of basis for once we've done that we need new content immediately. Please don't base the game around the people who play like me. If you run out of content within the space of 2 weeks, that is entirely on you, let's be real. Then again, thinking back to Classic, they did release Dire Maul early when compared with the rest of Phase 2, but I'm not really sure what they could roll out early here. Some daily quests before they're due to come out, that could keep you a little bit busy as well. But give the people who are still leveling towards level 70 a chance to actually see that, and then realize once they hit 70, there's actually so much more stuff to get done, and give them a good amount of time to experience the endgame before we throw in the next thing. The duration of Classic was overall much shorter compared to Vanilla, and I expect we'll get the same with TBC, but just don't overly rush the thing because there is a lot to be seen. That's about it though, guys. Let me know how TBC Classic has been going for you. We have world bosses and arena opening next reset as well, so that'll be something to prepare towards too. And I'm going to try and get back to my normal schedule and have regular uploads after that crazy first week rush. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.